if we're talking about a schoolboy philosophy around politics, something goes on in a particular district, the people of that district care, and they somehow cobble together some kind of campaign. That particular campaign runs against other campaigns, meaning there may be an incumbent. In addition to there may be an incumbent, there may be other campaigns that also have various issues that they care about, that they create their own campaigns. Those battle in an election, and at this point a primary, and the winner of that particular primary goes to Washington with the notion of representing the district to which they came from. After all, they beat everyone else, their campaign. Some campaigns are more substantive than others, but at the end of the day, the people choose which one represents the district. The same thing is relatively true for the Senate, right? It's just a larger area. So we're talking about the state as opposed to a small district. Now, that is a small schoolboy philosophy of politics because that doesn't include a lot of stuff. It doesn't include cash. It doesn't include the amount of time, like 75% that these guys go spending or begging for cash. It doesn't include market forces. That doesn't include foreign policy. But the very basics. It also misses one other point, that those other campaigns, meaning incumbents, may look at being in office as a job as opposed to representing the interests of their particular district, and will try to do things that go beyond the typical scope of politics in order to stay in office. What is also true in this process is that the representation of that district is the person. And this takes place across the entire spectrum of the United States with this notion that these representatives are to some tether to the country itself. Because after all, it's in the name, representative. From the standpoint of the Senate and from the standpoint of the House, the Democratic Party, yes, the party, the established order of the party, has tried to stifle and to snuff out lefty progressive competition. In doing so, this is an outright undermining of democracy. The schoolboy philosophy, the one thing that it does get right is that, for the most part, this group is a representation of the country. And if something is stifling or curbing or controlling who is brought into the, let's say, the den of democracy, if you want to call it that, that group at that point is literally stifling democracy itself in order to stay in power. Dispatches from the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is, I told you about the stifling of the House of Representatives, where they were attacking consultants for progressive candidates who wanted to get in office. They are now doing the same, exactly the same, for the Senate. Welcome to the Soapbox. My name is Jamarl Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoyed this content, you find yourself coming back to this channel often, please like this video, share this video, and subscribe. Also, if you really find yourself digging it, please consider supporting through PayPal or Patreon. The Democratic Party cheated Sanders. I went over the video last time. I'm not going to go all that into it again. After cheating Sanders and rigging it, and everybody knowing that they cheated him, Donna Brazile came out and even said so herself. They do this dog and pony show where they're trying to say, we're united, essentially gaslighting the crowd with nobody believing it. But nevertheless, almost robotically, all of them will say it. We're united. 15 million people had left the party. We're united. All right, fair enough. Then it was this big deal of, we got to get people into the party. We're a big tent. Not so much. You went into court and say, we are a corporation. We can lie if we need to lie. I mean, after all, there's nothing stopping us from doing so. There's no law that prevents us from doing so. If we need to lie in order to get people to vote for us, we can do so. It is what it is. Now, that wasn't necessarily enough to make them lose the case from the standpoint of fraud, but that does somewhat leave a bad taste in your mouth, right? If a party in a lawsuit alleging fraud essentially said it's not fraud because we can lie without any kind of encumbrance in doing so, that doesn't sit right. Especially if you're telling me we're united. In Colorado, Senate Democratic, I would say established order of things, is threatening consultants of various campaigns that may want to run in that race. Now, understand why they would do this. When AOC, Justice Democrats, all these other groups in the House of Representatives, they were trying to replace dinosaurs. You can understand why. They went into office with this notion of we are going to change politics. You people in office are not representing our interests. And so we're going to put people in that will represent our interests. We want Medicare for all, expansion of college. Social Security. And we want free college. That's what we want. And so the public put us in office, and the public wants that too. And we believe if we make this pitch, the public will be on board for this pitch. And we can't get what we want as long as those dinosaurs stay in office. Ergo, we need to get them out of office. The logic makes all the sense in the world. And so they started to rally campaigns across the country and say, all right, how can we get candidates that are willing to run in the various races to push for this agenda? Because the public may want this agenda if it gets the opportunity. The Democratic Party in the House made the point that any consultant that works with one of these campaigns, one of these insurgent campaigns in these various districts that is trying to take down a dinosaur, will be blacklisted. We will blackball you. We will not do business with you. You will be incommunicado. So this is not Mr. Smith goes to Washington in this kind of sense. This is the Democratic Party that has a certain group of ideals and beliefs saying we don't want you in this office. We want your votes. We don't want your opinion. Those are different things. And so all of the gaslighting and all of the lying comes to fruition. There was never an honest engagement of 2016. And this notion that they can lie and cheat and all this other stuff never was really brought to account. It just kind of kept going. And now we have somewhat of a semblance of the same thing. It is a big deal to go around the political process. Those people, when given an option, may want those things. The fact of the matter is you can't get those things with the dinosaurs in office. Those dinosaurs in office taking the extraordinary, perverse step of saying, this is our job and you are adversely affecting us in pursuit of our job. And so we are going to work with the party to attack elements that may be trying to get us out of office. It's gross. It's extremely gross. It's the Democratic Party trying to remain what the party is currently is now. That's the goal. That's the objective. The same thing is true, however, in the Senate, where you have Senate members in Colorado. You have a Senate race. The Democratic Party chooses Hickenlooper. And progressive challengers are told, if you run in this race, we will not work with you, meaning consultants. We will not work with you. You will be blacklisted. The reason why this is somewhat of a big deal is because consultants require the ability to work with the party. And their livelihoods is to some degree required. It is tethered to the party. Five campaigns. And five consultants have kind of made the point that says, yeah, the party, we were warned. Don't help. And if you do, you know what is going to happen. You will be blacklisted. This goes so beyond the pale. And it is literally an undermining of the democratic process. It's a handicapping of the democratic process. And yet they still want you to vote for them. I find that part to be the most amazing in the world. Why on earth would you vote for anyone in a situation where your needs were not met? Not just your needs were not met. Your needs weren't even allowed on the ballot box. It's not, okay, this guy just lost. It's not even this guy just lost because this guy had the help and support of the party, and yet we were able to air our ideals to the public. No. The party is thumb on scale. It's a snuff film before it even gets the good stuff. I guess I'm making the point that this is a handicapping. Whatever you want to think of the Russians' Facebook and Twitter ads, within your own country, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, established wing of the party, preventing candidates with an ideology that may be similar to our own from even airing that ideology to the public itself. Yet, they want your vote. Why on earth would you give up your vote to a party that doesn't even allow your perspective of events, your perspective of the world to air? They don't want more lefties in office. That's what this is. And in order to prevent that, they try to snuff out any ability, any attempt at these lefties of allowing their opinion to be known. Hickenlooper would probably win anyway. The point is that they wouldn't even allow it. That's what I'm getting at. How can you have a democracy or representative government when the people with the means and large amounts of cash put politicians in office, and those politicians use their clout in order to snuff out people who are to the left of them before even getting a grievance? And yet, they want you to vote for them. They want you to vote for them. That's Q in the background. That is signed. It's hard to see, but he signed it. I was at GalaxyCon. And he asked me, he's like, what do you do? And I said, I'm a political commentator. I do a channel on YouTube. And he says, are you telling your people to vote? That killed me for him to ask me that. And my answer, it killed me to answer that way. I said, to be honest, it kind of depends on who's running. And if the Democrats put up somebody who is somewhat of a hack, then the answer becomes no. Now, I appreciate Delancey talking to me, and I think it probably broke his heart that I said that. But it's stuff like this. It's stuff like this. They're putting their thumb on the scale. They don't want your candidates. They don't want your opinions. And again, Hickenlooper will probably win. But that's besides the point. And if it's happening in Colorado, it's happening everywhere. In the same way that it was happening in the House of Representatives. It wasn't one place. It was across the United States. We want your vote. We just don't want your opinion. Andrew Romanoff, who's one of the more than a dozen candidates vying for the Republican Senator Cory Gardner's seat, told The Intercept that multiple consultants turned down jobs with his campaign, citing pressure from the DSCC. They've made it clear to a number of the firms and individuals that we've tried to hire that they wouldn't get any business in Washington or with the DSCC if they work with me. It's been a well-orchestrated operation to blackball ragtag grassroots teams. You're not our type. At least 5 firms and 25 prospective staff turned down seats working with his campaign, said Romanoff, who has raised more than $1 million in individual contributions so far. I spoke to the firms. My campaign manager spoke to staff prospects, he said. Pretty much everyone who checked in with the DSCC got the same warning. Helping us will cost them. Helping us will cost them. A consultant spoke with The Intercept on condition of anonymity, said that their firm has been far along in talks with Romanoff when they got the word that Senator Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and the DSCC weren't happy. The firm told a top DSCC staffer that they are absolutely under no circumstances could work for Andrew Romanoff, so he withdrew the offer to be his consulting firm. So we withdrew our offer to be his consulting firm. We want your vote. We just don't want your opinion. We want your vote. We just don't want your opinion. I'll leave it here. You decide. Should you vote for people? Should you, honestly, vote for people that don't represent your interests? And in a political system where you're supposed to be able to choose your representative of sorts, when one of the parties decapitates that process by threatening and blackballing consultants to work with these candidates, because it's somewhat of a big deal. If I wanted to start a political campaign, I would have no idea how to start that campaign. It would help to have somebody who has some experience with it. If everybody that has experience is being blackballed and threatened to not assist those candidates, then you have a situation where those candidates can't run. Or those candidates run campaigns that are hobbled by not having that knowledge. Is this a representative government or not? And if the people who are in that office are trying to stop the night, essentially hold back the night, because they are terrified that the public may want something else and that they won't be able to stand up to the scrutiny of a campaign, it's an undermining of the democratic process, and it should be called out as such. Nor should you give your support to somebody or some group that is not willing to allow you to express your political will. Especially with this notion of the Democratic Party, seeing as that's supposed to be the left. That's supposed to be the side where lefties can't air their grievances. And after all the gaslighting that took place in 2016, saying, oh, we're united. And we want you to get into the political process. Not so much. Not so much. At least if you're in the House of Representatives or the Senate, which is both political branches. Or at least both sides of the same political branch, legislative branch. I'll leave it here. Like, share, subscribe. Thanks all.